Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Drahon, and welcome back to Pathfinder Hero Flux. That is Flux, short for fluctuation. In this series, we take characters from across media and bring them into Pathfinder 2nd Edition as playable characters. And today we are diving right back into the wonderful world of Pokémon to take a look at the second starter in the Kanto Trio. If you are a speedrunner or are looking to, well, defeat most of the gyms with ease, you are definitely going to want to pick this starter Pokemon when playing any of the Kanto games, if you can. Venusaur, the grass-type Pokemon. This is definitely a interesting Pokemon, not one that I would normally pick. In fact, technically I would pick this last, since Blastoise looks better than Venusaur, though I will say that Venusaur is definitely a very nice choice to have if you're going for a grass-based team. Anywho, let's go ahead and take a look at Venusaur's stats. Venusaur is mostly on the special attack and special defense side, even though the rest of its stats are pretty much equal, all in the 80s range. Of course, that special attack and special defense are equal at 100. Special attack and special defense are referring to the elemental moves, the non-physical moves. So we are going to need to make sure that our Venusaur can sustain any hits taken from spell attacks, as well as being able to dish out extremely heavy special attacks. But it's not going to be a slouch if it does use a physical attack. So for our starting stats, we're going to go with Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. With our ancestry, we are once again going with the Awakened Animal. However, since we are a grass-type Pokemon, we need an elemental heritage to suit that elemental typing. And the element of wood, the heritage known as Ardande, is going to be our best bet. This is going to give us a +2 to our strength, to our constitution, and our wisdom. And since we are an awakened animal, that is going to decrease our intelligence by 2 points, bringing us back down to a 10. And of course, our hit points are going to be 10. Venusaur is a little bit larger, being a little bigger than the average horse. So we are going to have 10 hit points for being a size large. We are basically measuring from head to tail. We also get a speed of 20 feet with languages in common and one other equal to our intelligence modifier. Unfortunately, that is a +0. So nothing going on there. Of course, being an awakened animal gives us awakened form and awakened mind. For our ancestry feat, we are going with Sunlit Vitality, which is going to be a reference to Venusaur's Pokédex entries of it wanting to stay in the sunlight, and its flower being able to catch the sun's rays. Now, a lot of you are probably very confused on why I went with the awakened animal, since Venusaur is stated to be the seed Pokemon. And yeah, it does seem a little bit weird, but according to a interview with Kin Sugimori, Venusaur and its pre-evolutions are inspired by frogs. In particular, various different descriptions such as its short legs, stout appearance, and ear-like protrusions on its head, as well as the thick fat ability on Mega Venusaur, makes it resemble a horned frog. And the flower on its back resembles the corpse flower. So we needed some form of animal definitely to go for that frog appearance. I originally was going to go with the Gripply, who were frog-themed humanoids. But I decided to go with the awakened animal instead to make it seem a little bit more realistic. After all, we did have that discussion about Blastoise during the last video. So I decided to go with the awakened animal, just so we could have that more frog-like appearance from our Venusaur. Moving on to the background, we are of course going with the elementally infused and picking the wood element this time. Go ahead and increase your strength and constitution each by 2. You're going to be trained in the plane of wood lore and gain a cantrip in root reading. Now, Venusaur doesn't really have any root-based abilities, though it does know the move growth, and if you are breeding for a Bulbasaur, you can get ingrain, though we are not going off of that. This is more of the thematic approach to Venusaur being part plant, so it's able to communicate with other plant life. Now for our class, we are going with the Elementalist archetype once again, but instead of Sorcerer, I wanted to go with Druid. This is going to increase our Wisdom by 2 points, increasing our hit points by 8, plus our Constitution modifier. We're going to gain access to the Voice of Nature. We're going with Plant Empathy. For our elemental physiology for our Elementalist, we are going with the Elemental Cycle. We also get access to Wild Song, which is the Druidic language. We are trained in Perception. We are also trained in Fortitude and Reflex saving throws, while being experts in Will saves. We are also trained in the skills Nature, Medicine, Survival, and Intimidation. We are trained in simple weapons and unarmed attacks. For defenses, we are trained in light armor, medium armor, and unarmored defense. Our Druid spellcasting is going to be Wisdom with the Primal spell list, though that is most likely going to be changed to the Elemental spell list due to our archetype. We also get the free feat of Shield Block, and since we are picking the Druidic Order of the Spore, we also get a free feat in the Fungal Leshy Familiar. I decided to go with the Spore Druid simply for the fact that Venusaur does have that flower on its back, and some of its signature moves, Poison Powder and Sleep Powder, are sort of pollen based, the spores that it releases. Now for our second level Druid, we are getting the class feat automatically in the Elementalist dedication with the skill feat of Assurance Nature. At third level Druid, we are going to be experts in nature. For our feat, we're going with the Ancestral Paragon to get the Ancestry feat of Grove Harbored. This will give us a +1 circumstance bonus to saves against plant, poison, and wood effects. And if we roll a success on a save against a poison effect, we get a critical success instead. We also get access to Fortitude expertise and Perception expertise. Moving on to level 4 Druid, we are going to go ahead and get our Vine Whip stand-in the class feat of Verdant Weapon. You cultivate a seed that can sprout into a wooden staff, Vine Whip, or another weapon. See what we did there? You spend 10 minutes focusing primal energy into the seed, imprinting it with the potential of a single level 0 weapon you are trained with, and that has no mechanical parts or metal components. Of course. So yeah, there's our Vine Whip stand-in, and this will be improved later on, so don't worry about that. This is more of the thematic purposes, and really is the only other physical move that we have. Moving on to level 5. Go ahead and increase your dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma each by 2. We are now experts in survival and are trained in athletics. For your ancestry feat, we are going with tree speech, giving us access to the ability to, communicate with plants. Well, more specifically, your connection to elemental wood allows you to communicate with trees in the universe of Muon, the language of wood elementals. You can ask questions of, receive answers from, and use the diplomacy skill with woody plants, like trees and shrubs. So it's very useful. We also get access to reflex expertise. Moving on to level 6 Druid, we're going to grab the class feat of Current Spell and the skill feat of Terrain Expertise. We're going to go with the Terrain of Forest. Moving on to level 7, we are experts in Plane of Wood lore. For our feat, we're going with Feather Step, and we are now expert spellcasters. Moving on to level 8, we're going with the class feat of Metabolize Element, and the skill feat of Wilderness Spotter, picking a terrain of Forest. Moving on to level 9, we are Masters in Nature and are grabbing the Ancestry feat of Kizadha Magic, giving us access to the spell Entangling Flora, and one with plants, which we can use once per day, each as a second rank arcane innate spell. Moving on to level 10, go ahead and increase your strength, constitution, and charisma each by 2, while increasing your wisdom by 1. Your class feat is going to be Martial Arts Dedication with the skill feat of Influence Nature. I decided to go with this class feat, Martial Artist, because, well, Venusaur doesn't really have any physical attacks besides tackle. No bite, no claw, no tail. Just a physical shoving. Body-to-body contact. That's it. And with a class feat we'll be getting later from the Martial Artist Dedication line, this is going to be important. So this is mostly a stand-in for the move of Tackle later on. So keep that in mind. And of course, with Influence Nature, we are going to have the ability, with patience and time, we can make bird calls, leave game trails, and ultimately influence the behavior of certain types of animals in the region to favor and even aid you in the days to come. The GM determines the DC of any checks required and the amount of time your work requires. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's something that could be useful, and something that seems relatively mundane for Venusaur to do. Going on to level 11 Druid, we are now Masters in Survival, and are going to grab the feat of Fast Recovery. A lot of Venusaur's moves do involve healing itself. such as Leech Seed and Giga Drain. We also get access to Weapon Expertise and Wild Willpower. Moving on to our level 12 features, we have the class feat of Poison Resistance and the skill feat of Environmental Guide. Better late than never on the Poison Resistance, but I thought we would need to go ahead and grab it. This will give us a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against poisons. And of course, our environmental guide makes us a little bit more capable of traversing our environment. And we are able to treat natural temperature effects of an environment as one step less severe. So that's going to be useful. Moving on to level 13, we are now experts in athletics. We're going with the ancestry feat of Pollinate. We are a giant flower after all, so this is more or less going to be necessary. It is a reaction ability. When you are hit and take bludgeoning damage, you emit a dense cloud of pollen, obscuring you from sight. You become concealed until the beginning of your next turn. Just a small defensive move, nothing really special. We also get access to medium armor expertise and weapon specialization. Going on to level 14, for our martial arts archetype feature, we are going to get the Rushing Goat stance. This is our tackle and takedown stand-ins. You enter the stance of an unruly goat, lowering your body and preparing to butt heads with your foes. The only strikes you can make are ramming horn attacks, and Venusaur does have those protrusions on its head that are similar to horns. Deals 1d8 bludgeoning damage, are in the brawling group, and have the forceful, non-lethal shove and unarmed traits. When you make a ramming horn attack, and your previous action was to climb, stride, or leap, you gain a circumstance bonus to damage equal to the number of weapon damage dice. You can make a ramming horn strike while climbing even if you don't have a free hand. Of course, for our skill feat, we are going with assured automatic knowledge in nature. For our Druid level 15, go ahead and increase your Dexterity, Constitution, and Intelligence each by 2, and increase your Wisdom by 1. We are now Legendary in Nature, trained in Diplomacy, and are going to get the feat of Robust Health. And we are now Masters in Spellcasting. At level 16 Druid, go ahead and get the class feat of Impaling Briars, and a skill feat of Assured Identification. You can fill an area with Devastating Briars, giving us access to the Impaling Briars Order spell. There aren't really that many moves that Venusaur can learn that are similar to this spell, though I would like to say that Grass Pledge is very similar. Going on to level 17 Druid, we are Legendary in the Survival skill, and we're going with the Ancestry feat of Irresistible Bloom. A lot of Venusaur's Pokédex entries do reference Sweet Scent, and how its flower is able to give off vivid colors and have an aroma that soothes the emotions of people. So it would make sense to have this feat just to reference Sweet Scent and this Pokédex entry. Moving on to level 18, we are going with the class feat of Momentous Charge. Since we have the Rushing Goat stance, this is going to improve upon the reference to Tackle and Takedown. You rush into your enemies with great and reckless force. You climb, stride, or leap, then make a ramming horn strike. On a success, the target of the strike is pushed up to 10 feet directly away from you. On a critical success, they are also stunned 1. We're also going to get access to the skill feat of Hefty Hauler. At level 19, we are experts in medicine. We're going to grab the feat of Toughness, and we are now legendary spellcasters, and we get access to Primal Hierophant. At level 20, go ahead and increase your strength, dexterity, intelligence, and charisma, each by 2. We are now trained in religion. We're going to grab the class feat of Pristine Weapon and the skill feat of Environmental Grace. Our Pristine Weapon is going to increase the damage of our Verdant Weapon. Our Vine Whip is now as powerful as Power Whip. And with that being said, that is all for today's video. What did you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would have given you all a spell list, but I could not figure out what spells would best work for Venusaur. If you have any ideas, also let me know in the comment section down below. But there are some good spells that could reference Venusaur's Mega Evolution and Gigantamax form, as well as a bunch of different spells that would reference some of Venusaur's more powerful abilities. But with that being said, that is all the time I have for you today, and I hope to see you next time when I am online.